Today's lesson is titled Walking with God. You are listening to the Yalak Emet channel and Rethinking the Torah on YouTube, Patreon, Twitter. I'm going to begin by reading from Micah chapter 4, verse 1 to 5, to show you a clear contradiction in the scriptures that as many times as I read this in the past, I never understood it. Because when you read the Bible, sometimes there are just some very clear and plain things that you just don't pick up on. But here now it says in Micah chapter 4, beginning at verse 1, "But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. And many nations shall come and say, Come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem." And they taught us in the Israelite understanding that this means that the nations are going to be defeated, they're going to bow to the Most High, and then they're going to have to come to Jerusalem to learn. That's why it says they're going to come up to the mountain and say to themselves, let's go up to the mountain of the Lord. So they're going to go there to learn from Israel that's rescued and learn the ways of the Lord. And it's the teachings of the Torah that's going to basically run the earth. All the other religions and these other strange beliefs that do not go in line with the Torah and praise the Most High and acknowledge the Most High based on Torah will be a thing of the past. That's what they taught us, and that's what it seems to be saying. But look, in the same chapter now, as I go on, it's going to contradict itself. And I found this, the teachings in the scriptures have a lot of this contradiction where they tell you one thing and then they come later on and tell you another thing. And you find the same thing in history. When you read a lot of history books, they tell you one thing happened in the 1000 AD, for example, and then 500 years later, a different thing, and so on. They tell you this city or this country was by this certain name, and then you read again a couple hundred years later or earlier, it had a different name, and so on, and just all kinds of stuff. So the Bible is no different from all that lifetime of contradictions that you find elsewhere. So verse 3 to 5 goes on to say, "And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more." I'm not sure why, since the Most High with his nation Israel in the Bible fought so many wars and killed so many people. But now he says they shall not learn war anymore. "But they shall sit every man under his vine," well, at least that's nice, "and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid." That's nice as well, "for the mouth of the Lord of hosts had spoken it." But here now in verse 5 what the mouth of the Lord also did speak. "For all people will walk, everyone in the name of his God." Now, they just told you from verse 1 to 4 things that sounded like you're going to come up to the mountain of the Lord and learn the Torah and learn the ways of the Lord and walk according to the ways of the Lord. And if you read some more, it'll tell you even if a nation like Egypt don't come up to Jerusalem to offer sacrifice and so on, basically to keep the Torah properly, then they're going to get no rain. Basically, God's going to drought them out, starve them out, and basically kill them off, because you're not getting rain and so on. You're going to end up dying eventually. And but here it is now. It says, "Everyone will walk in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever." See, at one point I thought, okay, it's saying if everyone's going to walk in the name of his God, that's because everyone has his God as Yahweh, because they came up to the mountain. But it makes a distinction here. It makes a separation by saying everyone will walk in the name of his God, and we We the Israelites, we the delivered, we up in Zion, Jerusalem, upon the mountain, will walk in the name of our God. So our God, the Israelite God that is different from the gods that the other people of the nations are walking in and serving. So our God is the God of Israel, the Most High, Yahweh. We're going to walk in the name of that God, the Most High, that Moses worshipped and taught from Mount Sinai. But the other nations who did not get chosen, even though they come up and learn, they are going to walk in the name of their God. So it looks to me like they're just going to go up there and learn and decide, this isn't for us, or we learn it is nice, we know it, and we know it very well, but we cannot give up our gods. Or they're going to go and learn it and come back and still do it, but still don't give up their gods, so they'll keep their gods as well. Just like in 2 Kings chapter 17, when Israel did not obey the Most High, so they got taken down, right? And then the king of Assyria brought in other people, other strangers, into the land and made the Israelite priests teach them the ways, the newcomers. But they did not keep the ways of the Most High as they were taught properly. They still kept their heathen gods as well. Like in 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 24, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was in the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared not the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which slew some of them. So they learned the ways of the Lord, right? But they chose not to fear him, so they weren't doing it properly. So if I go down to verse 29, howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in the houses of the high places which the Samaritans had made, every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt. And the men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima. And it goes on and on. So they feared the Lord, and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared, verse 33, this is 2 Kings 17:33. They feared the Lord, and served their own gods after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence. So it's the same now, where people can come up to Jerusalem in the end and learn the ways of the Lord, but then still keep their other gods that they've always known. So when you look at it now, it's really saying to you that after the nations have come up to Jerusalem and learned the Torah, they will walk after their own gods still. So they will worship the gods that they have always had, the gods that they chose. So let's read verse 5 again, Micah 4 verse 5. For all people will walk, everyone, in the name of his God, and we, meaning the Israelite, will walk in the name of the Lord our God, because our God is different from the gods that they're going to walk after forever and ever. So what this is showing you is that there is a clear contradiction right there. This also means, as I posted on Twitter recently, that this God of the Torah has no way at all. And he's telling you close to the end of the book of the Torah, because this is Micah, that's getting closer to the end of the Old Testament. He's telling you with his own mouth, through his prophet, rather, that people are going to come and learn my ways. So I am Yahweh, they're going to come and learn my ways. But really, they're going to go back and just worship their own gods. But my people are going to walk after my ways and my teachings. So why is it that the Israelite believes and teaches that everybody on earth is going to come the way of the Israelite, of the Torah? Why? When the book itself is telling you That is not what's going to happen. The book tells you it will, but then as you read a little bit closer, it tells you it will not actually be like that. And you put hope day after day, year after year in this book that can't walk straight. Why? Because you were simply taught the book. You were taught that God will deliver you, God will save you, and so on. But you're finding out that His word is not consistent. You have just heard another lesson today, walking with God. Join me next Saturday for another inspiring lesson from the Bible.